thank you, Vicky, for being part of the symposium. And of
Thank
course,
you, Vikram.
look, like I said it before this, I'm going to call you Vicky only because that's the way you have put it out on LinkedIn. So it's going to be that. But please, you have to first tell us about yourself, and then we'll move into a little bit about, you know, that I talk a little bit about how people can reach the whatever I'm doing, events and also. Please, Vicky, please tell us about yourself, and then we'll go forward.
Thank you, Vikram. First of all, congratulations. This is a very, very interesting symposium, and especially, you know, using the word philosophy and mediation, and great speakers so far, and I wish every success until, you know, the conclusion of the symposium. Very good work from your side as well. I had the chance actually to work in previous get-togethers that you organize, and you used to refer to very interesting topics, which makes, you know, also the mediators think deeper about the reality that we face, you know, in the sessions and as in the process in general. So a little bit about myself. I'm a lawyer, but since 12 years ago, I exclusively work on ADR methods. I'm a mediator, trainer of mediators in Greece, and arbitrator, fellow of CRB. I work, you know, in mediations in Greece, basically, but I am also a member of CIDRA in London. I've been trained for many, many years and until today in London, France, and US. And I love, you know, I'm a member of the, you know, peace community around the world, peacemakers. And I love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about that, about mediation and ADR methods. Not all of the cases and the disputes are to mediate, but definitely not all of the cases are for the courts and litigators as well. That's a very short, you know, summary of what I'm doing until today.
But Vicky, how do we get that A word out of your resume? We don't want the A word. We only want you to be a mediator, nothing beyond that.
Mediate.
We
Exactly.
don't want the A word. The arbitrator part of it will have to go.
No, no.
No.
That's true. That's true. I call myself a mediator more than arbitrator anyway. So yes, I agree with you.
I'm very happy actually when Adi says that he's doing it full time as he's working, I mean, totally doing mediations and he's a mediator. It's rare in the world, which is what we need to change, because I just feel that, I mean, there is so much work, but to create it in the right way, which I'm trying to do. Let's see how it goes. So we'll keep working on that. So Vicky, thank you very much. And what I'll do is,
if you allow me just a note, I believe that
please.
If we have two professions and two businesses, let's say, somehow, you know, we complicate the work. And because we work with citizens, with people, this may be somehow difficult for us as professionals. So I prefer to do something independently, let's say. And ADR is a different, totally, completely different method than what I used to do in the past, you know, the courts as a lawyer.
Well, I'm just saying that there are people who actually want to do full-time mediations, and they actually have that mindset. That is what their mindset is. And they're pushed into doing other things, which they're not satisfied with. They're not happy with that, but they have to do it because, look, livelihood is also one aspect of people's lives that has to be taken care of. So it's like there is a person from Brazil, Constantia. She was in that first symposium of mine, and I keep giving her example because in that symposium she says, in my lifetime I want to see that I can practice as a full-time mediator. So I always keep saying that if I can get Constantia to be a full-time mediator, my job is done. So that's how, I mean, because look, people do get frustrated. I mean, you don't want to do a lot of things. They say, I don't know about you, but in terms of as an arbitrator, but when I've been in arbitrations as a lawyer for a side, I've just reached out to the other side. I mean, the whole atmosphere doesn't gel with me. Of course, now I moved away from it totally, but even when I was part of it, it just didn't gel with me. I just, why? It's so easy, just do this. So I think it's just the mindset kind of thing. So I think we need to just, I mean, I can understand like livelihood part of it otherwise, but people should not.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
We're changing that. We can be changing that. But we're changing that. We're going to be changing that. We're going to be.
Yes, I hope so. We're
mediation circles. Mediation circles is what is going to be the situation. So this is what the symposium is. Mediatorvikram.com is where the information is. I won't take your time, Vicky, because I just go through it. I have to go through this only because of the fact that there is so much in terms of events that happen, and social media will not be the place to find everything because there's so many posts and everything. So what I did was, in the shows and events, I put out various ways that people can find information. So I put that out there. But World Mediation Circle, definitely to be discussed. And every community, every school, every organization, every issue-based thing will have a mediation circle. So that's the idea. This aspect of it, whether will come up in our discussion or not, but this is where it comes from: moral values, principles, and ethics-based humanistic approach to dispute resolution, where heart, soul, spirituality play an important role. So that's about it. I mean, and the next symposium that's coming up, Vicky, is on neutrality and mediation. So if you want to be part of that, please let me just put that out there, just a little poster. So that, because I mean, this is a discussion which needs to happen. I mean, although like P.Ë.M.E.Dr. definitely in his books has written about it, and his latest book also, Neutrality Trap, also he's talking about it. So I think this is something, because it's very casually used. Neutral and neutrality is used a little too casually. I think the deeper aspect of it, I think, needs to be discussed. So this is what it is. Let me read this part out. Of course, Desmond Tutu, everyone has read this, but let me also say this. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. So that being a little theme behind it. So, okay, now it's your show. I am here. I'm a spectator. Whether I'm a mute spectator or not, I don't know, but I'm there. So please, philosophy and mediation.
Okay, I know. Thank you, Vikram. Very interesting, and it will be a pleasure, to see your next, symposium about neutrality. And the speakers are really, great mediators. I am aware that other speakers have not used, any PowerPoints, so I'm not sure if I can do that.
Of course, your show, Vicky, it's your show. You can do what you like. This is your time.
It's just a discussion, and it's not a presentation, but sometimes, it assists if we have some.
No, Andrea used it. And Andrea put a slideshow.
I can share my screen.
Yeah, please.
I don't think so, though.
Yeah, you can. You can share your screen.
No.
Yeah.
Read. I don't know how to do it now.
Just go down to share screen and click on the share screen, open your screen, and that's it. We're done.
Okay. Right. I found it.
Yeah. Because whatever makes you comfortable. I mean, the idea is that this is something which you take it the way you like it. Yes.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've chosen not to talk about my own philosophy in mediation, although I will say, what is my own philosophy towards the end, if you wish me, Vikram, to say something about that. And I thought that I do hope that I give some ground to educating ourselves, more, and learn from our ancient Greek philosophers. In any case, the symposium is philosophy and mediation. So we all learn about the mediation process and our skills as mediators from Socrates. And we know about the open questions, about the exploration, about the paraphrasing, all these skills, the reframing as the epitome of the mediation. But we also, we have an opportunity to learn from Socrates' student, Aristotle, who used, the rhetoric. And I would like to refer of what we can learn as mediators from Aristotle's rhetoric and his work. So Aristotelian work has to do with the art of speaking effectively. And he talks about syllogismos, and syllogismos is the basic of dialectic, which is the work of Aristotle, and talks about logic and how we demonstrate the logic. So Aristotle informs us about some features of language and style. He focused on the listeners or the audience, the parties, as we can say in mediation, who receive a message. And he also referred to the potential for manipulation. So we need to carefully pay attention all to the disciplines that we can use in mediation. So Aristotle also recognized that the listeners would not always have a high legal acumen or wide-ranging analytical abilities, or even a tendency for fairness. And he said that an audience of untrained thinkers is that which a rhetorian should prepare to face, rather than making a mistake and treating an audience or the listeners as if they were fully rational. The rhetoric strategies used by Aristotle, and we also learn this in mediation as mediators, skills and mechanisms. And the rhetorical, therefore, appeals to three Greek words: logos, pathos, and ethos. And I will say more about that in a few minutes. Now, how can they apply in mediation? Well, as I said, discussing how the rhetorical knowledge operates generally in mediation is very difficult, as mediation is not of a rhetorical nature, obviously. And we are aware that it involves neutral assistance. You will talk about neutrality in December, patience, skills, respect, authenticity, ethics, and other principles. But already motivational and educational mediators employ rhetoric to lead the group towards thinking a particular way. And that way is towards a resolution of any dispute that they may have. So the way that mediators use language to guide the parties through the process, it's not only intellectual, moral, but with emotional approaches to getting the parties continue the discussion, their dialogue. So one of the three words refers to logos, which Aristotle said is based on logic or reason. Now, for example, mediators ask carefully open questions. And I know that Ken, who is the last speaker actually in this symposium, has written many articles about how to ask better questions or how we can make more correct questions to the parties. So what is the reason behind that? The rhetorical questions were used by Aristotle with his audience. His questions were asked without expecting or providing an answer, leaving the listener to think about it on their own accord. He said that people make decisions based on what someone else tells them to do a lot of time. So it is much powerful and encouraging to supply a person with a question and let them draw their own conclusions. So use of logic and careful structure of our logos is really important for Aristotle. Now, we also invoke logos from parties, some logic. So is there a structure logic behind, the parties' dialogue? And what can these open questions that we learn as a very important skill as mediators assist us to do? So whose logic is sought when mediators ask open questions? That means, is an open question for the parties or the mediators? Are mediators certain of what they want to learn? That means, is the purpose of the question to get more information or just hear the party's own perspective? And how are we going to use the information we seek? Do I use simple words with neutral empathy as we learn? Do I look for a specific answer? And what do we want to understand from the parties? Many other, different interpretations of why we do open questions and what kind of open questions. Non-biased questions, definitely. Rational modes of thinking for Aristotle, when we use logos, is again exploration, elaboration, and coherent thought, but careful for us, mediators, not over generalize, not unrealistic, not too passionate, not heated with a response. So we learn from Aristotle to take a good look at the capability of the human race as a whole in order to utilize logic consistently and similarly over time. We need to establish connection with the issues and get into details by using simple language, asking questions, and using techniques and tools. So Aristotle equips the speaker with a classification of words in order to find the balance between clarity and formality. And I will give you examples. He distinguishes between standard expressions. And these are variety of language that defines actually the linguistic culture, or borrowed words. We use as mediators the history of the problem, or anchoring effect. Idioms like, break the ice, elephant in the room, lengthened, shortened, or altered expressions, acronyms, abbreviations, and composite expressions, something in connections with something else. So these different types of words excite curiosity of listener. Do they attract the listener? These different types of words differ in accordance with the familiarity. And most familiar are the usual or current words. We need to use clear and usual words. Aristotle used metaphors a lot. Now, what is a metaphor? Aristotle said that it plays an important role for style, since metaphors contribute to clarity as well as the unfamiliar, surprising effect that avoids banality and tediousness. Now, metaphors. When we hear, for instance, the parties saying time is money for me, and we try to paraphrase, and we understand that the value of time is as important as money. Or another example, just to make it more clear, he carries the weight of the company in his shoulders, which is, a huge amount of trouble is emphasized. We also hear sometimes his lawyer is a shark, and the lawyer being compared to a shark means some ruthless behavior. Or he thinks that the world turns around him, and it is used to describe a self-centered person or behavior. And I must say that using the word tools for mediators' work is itself a metaphor. So metaphor brings about learning. Something is identified or substituted, and metaphors were used by Aristotle to invoke understanding of listeners. Now, the second Greek word is pathos, which appeals to emotions. And our emotions, Aristotle said, our emotions can influence the decisions we make, much as the outcome of our decisions can influence the emotions we experience. And Aristotle's influence may come through the listener. And while we do not want to be emotional in conveying the logic, invoking emotions from parties is helpful and essential. And people look to mediator as they want to be heard and seen, so they respond openly and positively. So we get parties to open up to the problem and refrain without the influence of the emotions. Acknowledge the values, include emotional vocabulary, expressive descriptions, emotional response, but careful again, not manipulate, not distract from the issue, not confuse. There is a requirement of conscious effort on the part of mediators to inform and influence authentically, but neutrally and with respect. And the third word is ethos. Aristotle said that we believe good men more fully and more readily than others. And he continues, this is true generally, whatever the question is, and absolutely true where exact certainty is impossible and opinions are divided. So in a case when there is no definite logical outcome, or even in the case where there may or may not be such an outcome, the party's perception of the credibility of the speaker or mediator plays a key role in whether encouragement of parties towards dialogue is achieved. So we talk about the values and the credibility of character. We talk about the personal beliefs, tradition, justice, equality, dignity, self-preservation, social level, empathetic to build trust, build rapport. We talk about EI as we learn, emotional intelligence. And how parties perceive a mediator's credibility. So based on Aristotle's rhetoric method, rate of speech, the professional status, social status, job title, but most important, confidence in presentation as exhibited through eye contact. We learn all this as mediators, body language, gestures, expressions, speaking style, intelligence, and trustworthiness. That means familiarity with all these points, and especially conflict resolution. And credibility is not easily accessible, but we have to deliberately try constantly. We assist parties to save face and build character. So we have to prepare. That's why we learn preparation is a must. And professionalism, I believe that they lead to credibility of the mediator. Clarity in our role as mediators, the process, and the ethical boundaries of both the process and the mediators all lead to the ethos of the process and the mediator as well. We do not misuse and we do not mislead the parties. And Aristotle said that it is for public practice of defending oneself or accusing an opponent. So his view on persuasion and influence was not only argument and proof, but credibility and emotional attitudes. It is exactly the use of logos, ethos, and pathos at every step in our lives as mediators instead of using discretely. He referred to concerns of particular topics, things about which we cannot gain real knowledge. And the rhetoric uses non-argumentative means of influence and persuasion. So what is the definition as per the Aristotle? It's the ability to see what is possibly persuasive in every given case. We do not need to convince everybody, but discover the available means of persuasion and influence. It is a neutral tool that can be used by a person of virtues. It is useful because he said, do just and good. Now, how can we know if we assist parties to do just and good as mediators? I will use again what Aristotle said, that the ultimate result and evidence of doing just and good cannot be certain or obvious for the parties or listeners in the future, but we will be able to talk about benefits accomplished in the future. So why do we need rhetoric? I believe that we try to establish what is just and true in a very neutral way. It is a method to discover all means of persuasion on any topic. And Aristotle again said that there is no unbridgeable gap between the commonly held opinion and what is true. It's how we deliver that. What is our style? And the parts of the speech and the persuasion has three elements: the speaker and the character of the speaker, the subject, which is the logos, not exactly arguments, but the logic used, and the listener, including the emotional state of the listener. So he summarizes the modes of influence, and we know that the mediators play a critical role in the communication process. And perhaps logos, pathos, ethos, as we learn from Aristotle, are not used to the fullest potential most of the times. And I used to say that it is not only what we say, but how we say it as well. So language is really important, steers the emotions of the listeners. And again, Aristotle said, as I refer here in brackets, our judgments when we are pleased and friendly are not the same as when we are pained and hostile. So the mediator who understands three means of influence is able to appeal to parties reasoning logically, understand human character and goodness, and understand the emotions, that is to name, describe them, know their causes and the way in which they are exited. So these are Aristotle's ethics. Now, using the word persuasion, which is not exactly good as far as mediation is concerned, but Aristotle gave another dimension. He talks about, first of all, the character of speaker. How can a person be considered credible, particularly a mediator? And Aristotle said, display three things: practical intelligence, virtuous character, goodwill. Now, he also said that if A exists without B and C, doubt if aims of speaker are good. If A and B exist without C, doubt whether speaker gives best assistance. If all of them are displayed, it cannot rationally be doubted. So what exactly is accomplished by what the speaker says? Too many things. And understand the emotional disposition of the listener. Aristotle said, parties not judge in the same way when they grieve and express joy, or when they are friendly and hostile. So speaker has to arouse emotions, exactly because the emotions have the power to modify judgments. And again, Aristotle said, do not motivate the listener and make them better persons, but the aim is a certain judgment, not an action or practical decision. So not a moral education, but encourage the many to mobility and goodness. And when we say about logic, Aristotle used the word syllogismos. And syllogismos is a very nice Greek word. As a scientific demonstration, is shorter than ordinary logos, the point of view, is adjusted to the intellectual capacities of the listeners and distinguishes premises, complete proofs, probabilities, and signs. Now, what are premises? According to Aristotle, premises are accepted opinions. Complete proofs is the evidence, as we call it in Greek, tekmeria. Probabilities is the parties must accept that something is likely to happen. And signs is a difficult element of syllogismos. Aristotle used the example for his teacher. He said, wise men are just, since Socrates is just. And we often hear, so that I can bring it to the now, the present, I know I am right, since my lawyer says so. And signs can be refuted, even if the premises are true. That is to say, they do not include a valid syllogismo, a valid logic. And Aristotle said that we accept a fallacious argument only if we are deceived about its logical form. But we could, excuse me, regard an argument made by the parties as a good and informative argument, even if we know that it does not include a logically necessary inference. The standards of rhetoric, I believe that they have similarities with mediation. Thinking, the invention, each particular case is different. The arrangement, how do we design the process, the style, the actual words that will be used for each case. Memory is the process of committing what has been discussed, because the process lasts for some hours. And the delivery, the words that we use. And as far as the memory is concerned, Aristotle used the word topos, which is not exactly the place, is an ancient method of memorizing a great number of items on a list by associating them with successive places, but not rely on the technique of places, the art of remembering. And does the sentence express a sort of opposition or contradiction coming from the parties? Does the sentence express that something is more or less the case? Does it maintain identity or diversity? And the rational modes, the rhetorical modes of from Aristotle, again, they have similarities with mediation. We have the narrative part, the events, the characters of the story, the conflict, the problem, the illustrative part, the evidence, the supporting points, the description, the ideas and the thoughts of the parties, the rationale of ideas and the complexity, the process analysis, the definition, the why and how, and then distinguish between fact and opinion and reasoned opinion. The style for Aristotle has to do with lexis, words, what the speaker should say. What good style consists in: metaphor, correct language, appropriateness, rhythmical shaping style, periodic and non-periodic flow of speech. Obviously, we talk about the oral style in mediation, and Aristotle stated that for to speak in one way rather than the another makes some difference in regard to clarity. And clarity matters for comprehension, and comprehensibility contributes to persuasiveness. So it's the virtue of excellence, arete, that depends on clarity, because it is the genuine purpose of a speech is to make something clear. So we can use, as per Aristotle, clear linguistic expression. We avoid banality. We use common words, not uncommon, and other words used with a certain intention, which creates suspicion. And the logos is a sign, so it should not be flat, but appropriate. And what are other ways we can, or words, we can effectively communicate through language? What is the purpose? We need to be flexible. So, mediation and rhetoric. My view is that it is a profession. It is a theory about what will help to cure any or all patients. It is also business. Individual cases are different. There's no systematic knowledge of them that is possible. So the rhetoric is concerned not with what seems probable to a given individual, but mediator with what seems works with what seems probable to individuals of a given type. We need syllogismos, which is constructed of materials that call for discussion, for a dialogue. And reasoning will be hard to follow as we assume an audience of untrained thinkers. Those of the latter kind will fail to win agreement because they are based on premises that are not generally admitted or believed, as Aristotle said. And when you understand what it is that motivates a mediator to mediate, we will be able to analyze these rhetorical choices. And we try to identify why we become a mediator. What are we trying to achieve? What are we hoping to influence others to choose mediation? There is a message. We have the parties and voice. And mediation, to me, is an art and a science as well. And we establish a positive reputation to the public and the world. And we maintain credibility by being prepared, by having confidence, but by having, conservative and appropriate appearance, passion, and logical thinking. And the goal, as per Aristotle in rhetoric, is to benefit society and the individuals involved in particular conflict. While the logic of an outcome also clearly plays a role in the determination of whether or not it is the most viable of a series of options and choices, the context in which the decision is made is contingent upon the listeners, therefore in mediation, the parties. Rhetorical and mediation. Rhetoric is useful. Its function is not so much to influence or persuade, but to find out in each case the existing means of influence. And the same exists to me in other sciences. For example, it is not the function of the medicine to restore a patient to health, but only to promote this end as far as possible. Because even those whose recovery is impossible may be properly treated. And all of this, the understanding, the communication, the visions of a rhetorian are similar, to my view, to those of a mediator. And we require this understanding of psychological, sociological, and political factors which influence a discussion of reality. The world of logic is vivid, compelling, and does not obligate people to take responsibility. But the use of rhetoric means that choices are made freely, and those who make such choices are responsible for them. Do we need leadership skills? Yes, to my view, Aristotle said that it is not about us, about our talent, charisma, courage, or instincts. It's about our presence and about making sure that the impact of our leadership continues into our absence. That's why we talk about even when we are not there, parties know how to communicate and discuss. So it's a job to create the condition for the people to fully realize their own capacity and power. And people tend to trust us when they believe that we are authentic, real, we have faith in our competence, logic, and when they feel that we care about them with empathy. Mediation is a we process, and we try to prove our mission. And if I may say my own philosophy now, Vikram, and I will stop sharing, or if you need, the PowerPoint still, I can leave it on. I do believe in this mission. And I do believe because it's a continuous learning and we grow into the profession. And this world needs experienced mediators.
Very good. How do you give a standing ovation online when you're on Zoom? But there is a standing ovation happening here because you've taken us through such interesting aspect. But also, I tell you the last slide, I mean, the one that you spoke about, your presence and authentic. These two things, Vicky, I think you need to give us a little more on this because this came up for discussion in that symposium on heart, soul, spirituality. So there was a certain discussion on it, but I think there is lots more that you can bring to that discussion. So your presence and authentic, those aspects to be elaborated on.
Right. When I say authentic and authenticity, each one of us is a different personality. Each one of us has a different style. Each one of us uses, common words, depending on a culture, depending on what exactly we carry in our lives. So I believe that we need to be and show that we are humans as well. We do not do miracles. That's what I'm saying. If something creates ambiguities for our role, we are not being authentic. We have to prepare. That's why I agree with our Greek ancient philosophers that we have to prepare and be professional. And being prepared and professionals, we are also authentic. We do not touch, how can I say, we do not touch difficult parts of ourselves when we mediate. In that case, we are not being authentic. That's my view of authenticity. And the most important is the style. What is the style that we use? Do we show, and saying style, the meaning is that, do we show willingness to assist? Or do we just be there? We say that we have to be present, but are we really present? Do we really understand what's going on for the parties with neutral empathy? Or is it for us to try and resolve the case? Because many mediators, they have a talent, they have a personality who generally in their lives, they try to assist others to resolve conflicts. But is it really true about us? It's not. It's for the parties. So the style, showing this willingness, being authentic, because we are humans. If we have difficulties, we need breaks. We need some time to think from one caucus to the other, or when we have, the parties in the same room. And that is authenticity to me.
That's interesting. Because the other thing about presence, because your presence, well, I mean, there was a discussion on, it's like the energy that a mediator brings. That aspect of it, maybe words are not there to define that. I mean, because that's
there
something.
Is one.
Yes.
Aura.
Yes. exactly. Those kind of things. So that sometimes I think gets left out in the discussions, because sometimes you
Yes.
go into a lot of theory, but these aspects which are, I mean, you can't really, it's not something that you can actually define or see, it's just happening. So those aspects also, I think, need to be highlighted, because there's lots more which is happening than what words can describe.
I believe that we need to have humility, Vikram, as mediators, and not only in mediations, in the process, but generally in our lives as mediators who are focused on this profession. So that's why I'm saying about authenticity. Everything is interconnected.
Totally. I think what we need to do is, because when I say mediator mindset, because that's what I say, the people with the mediator mindset, I think certain things we can list out, but certain aspects, obviously, they might not be words to put those things. But like you said, humility, being humble, and I mean, a lot of other things that we can put down there. I think we should put it out, because sometimes I think these things get left out when people, I think even people want to, they say that, okay, I am a mediator. For them to look at the overall package, they should see, because a lot of things that are happening there, which are, I think, some things which, I mean, I don't know, there is a different, there are, in terms of mediations, of course, there is the other kind of mediation, which I am not so happy with, but the settlement kind of mediation, where it is done, where it is either what we were talking to Adi was talking about through the court system and all. So that's a different, maybe, atmosphere that is created. Definitely that'll exist. But I'm talking about an atmosphere created where there is a connection happening in that space, which means with the people who are the participants and the mediator, that connection. So I mean, something on that, is there something that you have maybe experienced? Of course you've experienced, but have you been able to put it into words, that connection happening there?
Yes, because I always feel, Vikram, that the people who are coming to mediation, they're coming to be heard. And they perhaps talk to a mediator, but they really mean that the other party, they wish that the other party hears them as well. And they want to say what they want to say. We know that they come for a specific problem, but they talk all around that and they do not touch it. And when we touch it, because we deal with the problem and not with the people, as we learn and we are trained for so many years, they immediately, see a different view. That is exactly what we're doing. We encourage them to see the bigger picture. So I do not believe 100% that we are connected, but the connection come through the parties and through the trust to our, role, and trust to the process as well. Even if there is no settlement, even if there is no resolution, the parties leave mediation and they may remember the mediator and the process, and they will come back. Definitely, I believe that. They will come back with their lawyers present, even if they have a difficult dispute. They will come back based on that trust, based on that, as you said, connection, in other words.
Yeah. But other thing that came up in our discussions earlier, and which I put up that definition that Andrea had put there, I was taking that. So what came up, which is I'm building on that. Mediators are philosophers in practice, and mediation is philosophy in practice. Something on that, Vicky? Something that you can build on this in some way?
Yeah, I don't know if it is philosophy.
Then we are going to that definition. I'm going to put that definition up for you. Then we'll talk about it.
Well, if we mean philosophy by knowing what is going on around us, and we are familiar, with, I've seen that when you were discussing with Greg. Yes, I've seen that.
So when I read this, that is when I'm saying that let's look at it and let's
it's all of this. It's all of this. Yes. It's how we see also ourselves in this world. How do we stand, as grown-up people, as, you know, people with problems similar like everybody else, the political, the economical environment around the world, the social environment, everything is a philosophy, you know, and if philosophy means that we just sit around the table and we discuss about various things, philosophy in mediation is not exactly like that. We do not say the stories of our lives, but we learn from philosophical modes and strategies so that we do a profession and we grow in that profession. That's my view.
Because how I'm trying to look at it is that in terms of philosophy, you are studying human nature and all those aspects of it. And here we are going a step ahead. After looking at all that, you're actually having to move in a certain direction and not just putting theories out there. So that's what I'm saying. Philosophers in practice, or practical philosophers. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I have the words for it, but it's a step. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's a step ahead. I don't want to say that it's a step ahead, but it's something that you are doing. It's not that you're not doing all that. There is a philosophy and that's happening there, but you're actually taking it into a practical level in that situation. I think it's a very interesting kind of a.
Well, if we take, you know, the surrounding circumstances of philosophy in ancient Greece, we talk about self-awareness most of the times. So the philosophers really were focusing on self-awareness. So do we talk about philosophy as the mediator self-awareness? Probably.
Which that's what I'm thinking, that if Vicky puts down all those experiences and what she's picked up from there in a mediation or in mediations in general, that will become philosophy. That is philosophy. So I think you're doing everything that is what a philosopher would do, except that you are not putting it out as a theory. You're actually putting it into practice. But you can, after that, put everything that you have done onto theory, and that will be philosophy, and that you will be a philosopher.
Absolutely. Yes.
Something there. That's interesting. That
there's a lot of discussion. A lot can be said around that. Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I think that's
but it's you know, many sciences in mediation. We know that. And perhaps this is philosophy as well into practice.
Yeah. Because why I keep highlighting it, you know, I keep highlighting it only because people should value mediators. They should understand there's lots happening here. It's not as simple as you would want it to be. There's someone just sitting there and helping you resolve something. A person brings a lot into that space. So I think because I think that's where it will start from. Because once you start valuing the mediator, the whole process, you will value the process. And when you can value it.
It takes time, Vikram. It takes time, and it's and the ball is on us. We have to prove all this. I mean, expecting the citizens and the public, and among them lawyers as well, to see something different on our profession. It takes time. Perhaps next generation will be more educated about that.
Well, what I'm trying to do is that let them value, first of all, identify and value those with the mediator mindset. And right at the first level, wherever it might be. I mean, it's not required to go to someone somewhere sitting there. Like you said, it's a profession. I still debate that, whether it's a profession or a way of life. So that was something in my mediators, that World Mediators Conference. We had a little discussion on that, but we can obviously we should have more discussions on that aspect. But at the end of it, the point is that there are people who are practicing it without using the word. The word is not important for me, not important for you. I'm sure in Greek there is some other word. In Hindi we have some other word. So we have words there. So I don't think words for us are important. But the point is that is being practiced. And it will be practiced, and it will happen in every home. It will happen in every community, organized, everywhere it will be happening. So why not get those people who are already practicing it to be able to get highlighted and valued? Because the point is that lawyer in a community is looked at in a certain way, and it is point of prestige and a social standing and all that. On this level, because I am saying there is no qualification required, and there is a lot of people might have a different view on that, but I'm saying there's no qualification required. And because there's no qualification required, is it because of that they are not valued because they do it as part of their life? I mean, you as a passion, or just it just comes to them. So if those people whom it comes to, we can actually take them forward, and then I still will not use the word profession, because profession for me still means qualifications and training and everything, which I want to keep this away from that. But just the fact that there is this kind of a process available to you right there where you are, and this person is available to you right there, just to
So
connect
what is
that.
that? What is that? Because actually, you know, I remember a mentor in US during my trainings. He asked a very interesting question. Is a mediator a talent or knowledge? Or an experience as well?
I'm telling you that we want to use these words of talent and knowledge. I am saying that there is, it's just, yeah, you know, and there's so much more, and which is the discussion on heart, soul, spirituality, and whatever could be ethics, morals, and humble, humility. As I say, all the words that we should put them all together, and that is what it's a package is. It's a whole package which comes with a lot of aspects of it, which would mean, I mean, all those things that you said, all those, and a lot more, which is there, which, how do you tell anyone else that this is what it all entails? You don't need to, because of the fact that they've identified those people with all these things in mind. Because when you say trust is an end result of a lot of things that a person has looked at. And we also don't know what the person is looked at. And I keep saying that it could be just that one sentence or one conversation they might have heard of that person, and the way the person dealt with that. And that by itself can bring the trust in the person. So trust is something which is just the end result of various aspects. That's why I'm saying we don't even need to go into those aspects. Do you trust this person? I'm saying that question itself is the question that is required. And if you trust this person, why you trust the person, what qualities that have are immaterial. That's the question that I tell people, just ask in your community, in your school, who is that person you trust to help you resolve your dispute? That's it.
Well, Aristotle said it. It's not only what we say, trust me. Why should I trust you? It's how we say it and what we are doing about that. It's a continuous effort and focus and consistency, and you know, that takes a lifetime.
No, I'm going in the reverse. One is, look, I can go out and say, look, trust me to help you resolve your dispute. So that. The other thing, whom do you trust? And let's take that person forward, because the first aspect of what, look, on the other end, this whole training and all those aspects, the certifications and all that create or are done, is finally that the person can trust you. That's what you do it for. But if there is a person who's already trusted, we've gone through all these layers. We've come to the point where all these certifications take people. We've already got that person. Now let's start from there, and then we take. So that's the whole idea about the World Mediation Circle and the mediation circles. So which is what, Vicky, we have to do the Greece mediation circle. And in that, we will do other mediation circles. If you find time from your arbitrations, we have to remove the arbitration part of it.
No. I'm more focused on mediation than arbitration.
Yeah, so you need to spend time. You need
totally different process.
But you need it. We need to have you on this side to be able to develop these things, because it helps everyone. It'll help your practice also. It helps your practice when you're out there doing this, creating this. Because I'm this is a work in progress. So there's a large organization. I'm trying to create that mediation circle there. My experience from there, which I will share then and see, because I'm refining this on the organization, community, school. I said, let's take one of these and then one issue. So this climate change mediation circle, one organization, then on a country level, there is a particular person who wants to do it in that country. Let's just do it in each. Then we'll learn from that, and then we'll refine it, and then we take it forward. So That's about it. So Vicky, one last closing remarks, concluding remarks, whatever you want to put across.
We need to learn from the past to move in the future. But we need also to develop based on new circumstances. We are all aware that artificial intelligence is already in our door, and we need also to develop, you know, as mediators, as human beings. And I believe that we always evaluate things as mediators, and we move on. And it's really a great thing that we try really with that passion, all of us around the world, to assist dialogue and communication. That's it. That's my view. And thank you, Vikram, for the time and the invitation. And congratulations on all your symposium and lectures and presentations and gatherings, mediators around the world, well known, and they bring their, you know, wise experience and knowledge on this matter.
But Vicky, what you have to tell me is that now there are more than 450 videos out there. Should I stop now? Should I stop generating new content? What am I supposed to do? Because are people ever going to be able to watch what is out there?
Yeah, they will decide. At a certain point, they will have to view, you know, what various mediators are talking about and learn as well, or not.
No, because I'm telling you, for next year, of course, I have all these events planned out, but I just feel sometimes, am I putting too much content out there? So that's something I have to, I don't know.
You do a great job.
So at the end of it, you will be able to watch some of that, will you, or will you not? That's the
Of course, I've seen already.
Good,
I told you.
Good. Perfect. So anyway, and last day, you're coming on the last day on Ken Cloke's session.
Yes.
Please come. And a little bit before that, what I did was the last day, just before that closing session, we can have a little discussion on our learnings and key takeaways. I have a little session at the end of every symposium. So please, maybe half an hour before Ken's session, we can just have a little chat on that.
Thank you.
All
yes,
right. Thank you very much, Vicky, for taking out time.
Thank you very much, Vikram.
It was
Vikram,
really
all the best.
important. Thank you very much. See
Thank
you.
you.